Good evening, cult members, and welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And welcome to our instantly after the episode reaction, review, discussion, wild speculation about where the hell Atten is of the Skeleton Crew. This is episode 4, and this one is called I Ain't Ever Heard No Atten. Is that right?
No.
I almost had it. This is Can't Say I Remember No Atten.
There you go.
Which is said multiple times in this episode.
By Smee. Every
Smee.
single time.
We call SM3 Smee around here because that's who he is.
Right.
We have been talking about with this show, like each episode has kind of presented something to the kids that they need to learn or see or whatever it was.
Right.
And this episode, it was a little bit of wish fulfillment.
Right, for better or worse.
For better or for worse, which we'll get into. But also a little bit of the maybe our lives aren't as bad as we thought they were.
Yeah, definitely. Because they keep talking about how life at Atten is boring and nothing ever happens there, and now they get to see the complete opposite.
Yeah, except for Neil. Neil's the one who's like, I'm ready to go home. Like,
yeah.
I
like my home. He is the only one with an actual quote unquote normal family.
True.
Like his parents are there when he gets home, and his siblings all for the most part get along.
Yeah.
And so
yeah, so it's been fun to kind of work our way through life lessons that kids that are at this age group need to learn.
And some adults.
But them. So what happens after the last episode when they left Kim's moon planet and had the fight with the X-Wings of the New Republic? They jumped into hyperspace without really thinking about where they were going. They just took the coordinates from Kim's computer and...
Right. I mean, they assumed that they were the correct coordinates, and so did we until they actually landed on the planet.
So as soon as they come out of hyperspace, there's it looks like a space station in the background. Now, I've been talking about the High Republic a lot in this series because they keep talking about the Great Works at Atten.
Right.
In the last episode, they kind of talked about the Great Works were actually part of the old Republic. 7 planets. So I believe what they said last
yeah,
week.
I think it was 7 planets.
And they were all destroyed except for Atten. So when they show the space station looking thing in the background, my first thought was the Starlight beacon, which is the main thing that starts off the High Republic era, and then the devastation of the Starlight beacon crashing.
Right.
So that was my first thought. I'm like, there's a space station. That's interesting. We've been talking about this and whatever. And then as the ship passes in front of the screen, there's more, and you realize, oh wait, no, that's a satellite.
Yeah.
So I'm paying attention to the satellites, and then all of a sudden I'm like, wait, the sky is green.
Yeah.
So they've made it back to Atten. That was quick.
Right. Now what are we gonna do?
Now what's gonna happen? And when they land, they start to realize that they are not on Atten. And I love the discussion that the kids have about, did we sleep for 100 years?
Yeah, I think that was Neil. It was like, did we just sleep for 100 years? Yeah, because they walked into somebody's house, right?
Yeah.
And the tree that's very, small, like 1 story size or whatever, is like as tall as the house inside, and so they're like, what's going on? And everything obviously hasn't been lived in for quite a while.
I like KB, like she's the one who's the analytical one. So she's sitting there the entire time going, this looks like home, but this is not home. This is not right. And Wim is doing what Wim has been doing, which is touching everything that he's not supposed to touch. And actually, he finally gets called out for it. I don't know who called him out. It was either.
Well, I did. I called him out.
Oh yeah. No, we called him out. But I think it was either Fern or Neil. We're like, do you have to touch everything or along that line?
Yeah.
After we said it.
Yeah.
And so they started to realize that this wasn't their home, so they go back out into I guess the courtyard of this little part of the city, and there's a statue there, but the head is missing.
Right.
So cue all the wild speculation about who that actually is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have no skin in that game right now. I'm sure by this time next week I'll have 15 theories, but it was definitely a male character.
Yeah. And I'm just wondering because, as we find out towards the end that SM3, Smee, whatever, his previous captain killed his whole crew that saw the coordinates for At-Aten and, told Smee not to, to kill anybody who tries to get the coordinates and had him slash them off. So I'm wondering, that's all got to be connected somehow.
Yeah.
That they got there and realized, maybe this the last of the 6 planets other than At-Aten
right
has gone bad.
Yeah.
And we need to protect At-Aten at all costs from having that happen to them.
Yeah.
But it's not fleshed out. I don't have any other...
And they keep talking about treasure on At-Aten. And so I wonder if there was... each planet had a surplus of gold and resources to build all of these track homes, these suburbia kind of style homes, all these buildings.
Well, I kind of felt like it's the corporation.
Yeah.
Whether that's the Republic or who, it's the corporation that has built this. It's like in the 50s or 60s when corporations would come in and seed a whole community around whatever it is they're doing, building, producing, whatever. And so you come in and work for the corporation, you get this nice new track home and you've got a grocery store and all that. So that's kind of how I felt. And then, but then the corporation is having the people are whatever it is, mining Carillium or, whatever it is. And, but I'm wondering if each one had a different thing.
That was my little for those who are on the podcast. I went bing with my head. When you brought that up, I thought about the Old West mining towns.
Yeah,
where each mine kind of had its own copper, silver, gold, whatever, and a town instantly. A corporation came in. They brought the train in.
Yeah,
they had they built up all these quick, easy buildings.
Yeah,
that's why they look a lot similar on this planet, which they come to find out is Acorn.
Akron.
There we go. That's the most non-Star Wars name in the rest of the show, by the way. But it definitely feels like that. Like you're talking about with the 50s, with Motorola coming to Arizona,
that's what I was thinking of.
or the mining towns in the West or whatever, where they just show up and they create a town around this mine. And I brought the mine thing up is because Fern's joke to Wim in the first episode about kids who don't pass the test get sent to the mines and never get heard from again.
And I even said then, I don't think, she was actually joking.
Yeah, I think
she might have thought she was, but she's heard it from somebody somewhere who wasn't actually joking.
And Mom was the, undersecretary or whatever?
Something like that.
And she was trying to get an audience with the supervisor.
Yeah.
So there's definitely that kind of feel now being laid out in front of us.
And just like the 1800s, whatever, mining towns. A lot of them today are ghost towns.
Yep,
They
they
don't.
went bust. Yeah.
Yeah, either because the mines dried up or because you know highways came through or whatever.
Yeah.
So they just
Yeah.
don't exist anymore, which is interesting. So maybe at Atten's thing that they're mining is the most important thing to everything that they were.
I am one of two theories when it comes to Atten on that particular thing. One is only the supervisor has contact with the outside galaxy.
Yeah.
And he's like the people are happy, so there's no reason for them to riot against the supervisor. He is Oz, but he's Oz who understands to keep the people happy and docile and whatever.
Right.
So that's one way. Or the other way is there is no actual supervisor. It's the droids that are running it. And the droids are just continuing their programming because they've spent a lot of time talking about droid programming. We had Fern in the first episode rewrite her house droid's memory to convince the droid that she had been home earlier or whatever. Right. And then she pulled that same trick with SM33 in this episode to have him convince him to actually tell them about Atten, and he's the one who says, I'm the one that destroyed it. My captain told me to kill everybody, rip them, and if anybody came asking for it, to rip them from limb to limb. And he starts to go like he's going to attack the kids. And then Neil stands up and starts throwing rocks at Smee, and then Jod ran over and just turned off the off switch, which was perfect. But that idea of the droids running just their program and just keeping this, like the security droids, there's like all this stuff.
But that doesn't. We're back to why did SM33's captain want it protected at all costs?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's basically been wiped from everybody's. Not literally wiped from everybody's memory, but so far removed that everybody just thinks it's a legend.
Yeah.
And that it's not real. Yeah. So there has to be a reason for that besides just droids running through their programming. And
it could, just simple, like maybe thought process. The treasure is actually on the ship. He had the treasure. He had everybody else killed so he could keep the treasure for himself. That's why they died in a duel and they crashed on Atten, as Atten being their Tokyo.
Right.
They're from Tokyo Drift, like the run and hide, whatever. And the only place that the only one who knew where Atten was the captain and Smee.
Yeah.
And so like
maybe.
and then there was something that happened, but so the actual treasure is on the ship.
Yeah, maybe.
Or a treasure, maybe not the treasure, but a treasure is actually on the ship.
Yeah, and with Jod, he keeps poking around in like everybody's stuff that he might actually find it, because the kids have been busy. They're not poking around at what's going on, what's in the ship itself. They're just like put their stuff down and found a place to sleep, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
So maybe he'll come across it.
The kids interacting with the Hatfields and McCoys on at Acorn.
Akron.
Akron.
Like Ohio, Akron.
Right. The lesson for me here is the kids were the one. There was a set of kids that found them, brought them to one clan. Jod and Smee got pulled by the other clan, and through dialogue between Hayna and Neil, we get this. They stole our Eopes, and we're gonna go steal them back and burn their grain silo, and and we've always been fighting against each other, back and forth, and
I tried to hold it.
and so there's this like always like tit for tat kind of back and forth warfare, but the leader of her clan empowers the children to be part of the army. And it's a little bit of wish fulfillment for, especially for Wim.
Wim, definitely. And
And Fern, too.
Fern, yeah, that's her name. Yeah, because she's like, she likes to act like she's all badass. And we see in this episode that it's 95% an act. She's just trying to get through the day. But I think it's interesting, like, again, are they all just fighting against each other because that's what they've been doing for as long as they can remember?
Yeah.
Because it's all super petty, and Jod ends up getting what are they called? The animals.
Eopes.
Eopes. He ends up getting them back like super easily.
Yeah.
Like everybody's just kind of like, yeah, okay, now we're gonna go and do the thing. They're just going through the motions.
Yeah.
So I wonder,
Neil said, "Have you ever like stopped to negotiate with them?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "No." Like you see it in her face. Like was coming to the realization that like, no, not as long as I've been alive. And she was like 13.
Yeah.
And she is like, no, we've always been like this. And then Jod brings them back and talks to the kids as they leave that, nobody ever negotiated with them. So I just negotiated with them and we got it. So there's this idea that the kids get kind of what they want. They are empowered. They're trusted to do something. But ultimately, what that is not what they want. They don't want this level of responsibility to fighting in this war. We live in Arizona. A lot of the Lost Boys from the West African tribes that got sucked into the civil wars there live here, were brought here. And so we have that kind of that understanding of this idea of the child soldiers. I always want to put an H in it. Is both something that kids think they want, but ultimately they shouldn't be in it. And so having them actually be involved in this. And then I also really like I kind of made the joke that the young American GI went to France and fell in love with a French girl because Hannah had a French accent.
Yeah.
And that's intentional. That she does not have a French accent.
Not in anything we've ever seen her in. No, she hasn't. So either she is.
She's from Kansas City.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. It was just I just this was a Neil centric episode, and Robert Timothy Smith, who plays Neil, in interviews said this is the episode he was most looking forward to because this is the one that's very Neil centric, and we get to spend some time with him talking about how he's afraid, he's scared, and he just wants to go home. And why can't you just sit down and talk about it? He's the nice one.
Yeah.
That I think a lot of the group, Wim's gonna come around to, actually maybe giving his friend some credit, which he hasn't necessarily done yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what happened in this episode has opened. I think we'll see in the next couple episodes that it's opened Wim's eyes, because he's in his own little drama going on in his head. There's fighting and there's Jedis and this is so cool and swish swish with the stick, and all of that, and he's not paying a lot of attention to the people around him. He is peripherally paying attention to
Shoulder. Shoulder.
say peripherally. Fern is she's a badass. Okay. And Neil, he's my best friend. Okay. But he's not actually taking the time because he's a 12-year-old boy to understand what's going on with them. And so he sees Fern crying. He realizes she is not the badass that she portrays. And he sees, Neil is leading this group out to this fight.
Yeah.
And he is petrified.
Yeah.
And I think that Wim is going to see that. He is forced to see it because I'm sure he wasn't not scared.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah.
And
all the kids were scared.
Yeah.
But Neil was the one who was scared and stepped up.
Yeah. And I don't know if he stepped up or he was forced to, but but he did it. He did faint at one point in time when he threw the rocket at Smee, but he had a lot going on between the time they landed and then that, so he needed a nap. But I think that we still haven't gotten KB. We haven't gotten a lot with her yet, so
right.
It'll be interesting.
That might be the next episode.
Yeah, because I feel like nobody knows what's going on with her. So.
Yeah. I have no proof of concept for this. I'm just spitballing, but it feels like after everything that happened in the supervisor tower with Smee, with finding the coordinates, finding the other ats. I'm just going to go with ats because there's Atu and Atacapacaba and at Barack Obama. And all of that and the stress of Smee, I think that could be like a trigger for her heart if that's what her medication is for.
Yeah.
I'm like I said, I have no basis of understanding, I think that I don't know what's going on. I'm just saying.
I think that at some point we are going to get that.
It has to do with the visor.
And right, and that's going to be like we have got to get home because she is going to die if we don't. I don't know that it's going to be in the next episode because this was 4, right?
Right.
And we have 9, 8.
I think it's 8. Keep talking, but I'll look it up.
So I kind of feel like we might go to at least one more of the ats because we have coordinates for another one on that the
pillars. Yeah.
So we have at Akron, and I didn't pay attention to what the second one
at Atu.
At Atu, and then at Atten was slashed out.
Right.
So they could go, following the logic, well, if the coordinates are here
that's what I
on
thought.
This planet, then maybe they're here on all the planets, and we have the coordinates for this next one, so let's go there.
Yep.
We don't need...
And triangulate the location.
Hopefully at least that one will have at Atten.
Yeah,
because Smee and his captain couldn't have gone everywhere, right? Maybe, but... I think because they don't have any other choice right now.
Right.
So that would be the next place they would go. But I don't see them going to every single one of them because they're just going to be the same. At least one, maybe 2 more, and then finally figure out their way to get home.
Yeah, I'm still interested in what happens when they get home. Because they're going to be bouncing all over the place, and now they're going to bring attention to themselves.
So have they said, I know this doesn't mean anything, but have they said that this is a standalone 1 season, we're done?
So I have read that this was a standalone by itself. We have plans for 4 seasons.
Oh, okay.
So it's one of those, if it doesn't get picked up, fine, it's cool. We've told our complete story, but we have story for 4 seasons as the kids age and what that could mean for the outside galaxy. The part of the problem with that discussion, though, as popular and as good vibes this show is giving everybody, if they have the scripts ready, 100% have the scripts ready. They're still not going to film till the fall. And now the kids are 16.
Right.
Or 17.
No, they're like 12 right now.
This show was shot 2.5 years ago.
Okay, so they'd be
15 now, 15, 16, and they would be going.
But if they had planned on it being them aging,
right,
then that makes sense.
And I have heard John Watts say they do have a plan for the aging of the kids.
Right, because I mean, if Stranger Things taught anybody anything,
yep.
If you're gonna have a main cast of young children, and you plan on doing more than one season, you need to be prepared for them to be getting older. Now, this last season, it's probably a little longer than they had hoped because of the strike and everything. But
and they're 9 months of filming.
Yeah. So they're all going to be. I mean, Millie Bobby Brown's married.
Yeah.
They're probably all like, you cannot get pregnant. You have to wait until the show is done filming.
I don't know if she wants that because she has a farm. So.
Oh yeah, you have a bunch of babies and a bunch of cows and a bunch of dogs and a bunch of chickens.
Welcome to Stranger Things talk. We will be talking about that show. Some things that one other thing I wanted to bring up before we kind of talk about some of the fun little details they gave us. They get in the turbo lift. KB hotwires it.
Sketchiest elevator ever.
Right. But that Neil says on their planet at home, this is the supervisor's tower.
Right.
And when they get all the coordinates and everything to all the other planets, which we brought up earlier. But another kind of not directly addressing the supervisor, but just kind of dropping it in dialogue as they move along. I think that is going to be the ultimate kind of capper conclusion about who the actual supervisor is. Like I was saying earlier, it could be droids. It could be somebody who's just getting fat off the land, but understands how to keep the people.
Yeah, but if these coordinates are in the same location in all planets, and that location is the supervisor's office, whatever, and they go to at least one, if not two more planets, that's going to spoon feed everybody a little more information about who or what, or maybe not at all, the supervisor is.
Yeah.
So by the time they get back to Atten, I think the kids and Jod are going to know
1,000%
what is going on.
And they're going to bring it up to their parents.
Yeah.
And I think maybe in the next episode, episode 6, we're going to get another back on Atten with the parents trying to go to the supervisor's office to try to get some kind of answers.
Yeah.
Since they made such a big deal about the supervisor deciding it's illegal to leave the planet, so they're not going to reach out.
Right.
And so if it was one parent, it would not be a big deal, but it's multiple parents.
Yeah, Wim's dad definitely did not have a look on his face like he was ready to just sit there and wait.
Yep.
And Fern's mom, she's a semi-powerful person, so she's going to try to probably use that, even though at first she was like, it's fine. They just ran away. They'll come home. But now that I think they've all kind of come to the understanding, Neil's mom, she's going to make everybody lunch. But
she's the Weasley mom.
She is the Weasley mom. Yep. And KB's moms are probably going to get on board with everybody else just because they're concerned about their daughter's health.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Wim's dad is definitely going to be the screw you guys, we're getting off this planet.
I cannot remember what the name of the movie is, but there's a movie about Denzel Washington taking an emergency room hostage because his son couldn't get the medicine.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm thinking that kind of feel might have something to it where he's going to just storm in, guns a-blazing, to try to find out what's going on. And then the episode's going to end, and they're not going to show us who the supervisor is. And then we have to wait until the last episode to find out what's going on. All right, some fun little details that I caught. We talked about Fern using her override thing on Smee. When they first come across Hana and her second, they hide in the school bus, the school tram.
Yep.
It's all destroyed or whatever, but it's there. The other clan, the Red Clan, I don't remember what they called themselves off the top of my head, had the Eopes, and they had the battle droid tank. That's what it looked like. Which I found a little interesting. It's not exactly right, but it's the right shape with the guns in the right place.
Yeah.
Covered, all kind of things. Yeah. A bunch of the soldiers, there we go, had the oversized helmets with the open face that came almost down to their shoulders. That looks like the Mud Trooper helmets that Han Solo wears in I don't remember what the battle is in the Solo movie where he meets everybody and they get off the planet with Chewie and everything like that. That's a big deal in the Academy Candidate, the Han Solo comic. That's the kind of the prequel that kind of tells the backstory of that battle. But a lot of the Mud Troopers in the Empire have that one-piece helmet that wraps all the way around. It's like kind of so several of them. So I found it very interesting. There was kind of an Empire kind of like armor and armor pieces sitting around, not stormtrooper pieces, but Empire stuff. The Eopes is very interesting. Those aren't like readily available.
Well, their satellites were all kind of in disarray when they came into the atmosphere. So they obviously don't have the shields up anymore like they do it at Atom. So people, stuff, ships are probably
that's a good point.
Coming in there.
That's a good
probably
point.
Like pirates and stuff. Probably not so much.
And all of their outfits were very mixed matched too. Yeah. So it would have made sense. And they talked about when the commander of the one army talks to Fern, he says we don't typically negotiate with off-worlders unless it's for ammunition and something else.
Yeah, so nobody was super surprised that there were all of a sudden this random kid showed up. Like it wasn't. Yeah, so they've seen.
This is why we talk about these little detailed things, because I hadn't put that together.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Why everything was the way it was. The statue we talked about. SM-33 trying to attack Jod when Jod was going through the kid's stuff, and saying, I thought we were getting robbed or whatever.
Yeah.
And Jod,
well, he's definitely having a droid mental breakdown up until the point where she
kind of
gets him. Well, she gets him to. Yeah, like he's almost coming up against. He's got one directive and then his memory, and he's conflicted because he was smoking and sparking and having a hard time getting off the ship. So
where's Babu?
We need a Babu freak.
We need a Babu freak.
Do a reset.
KB did talk about rewiring them. It's only a few hundred million synopsis, so it'll be a piece of cake. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, that they shut them off and they kind of rewire them and see what happens. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. When Jod shows back up with the EOP and gives them back to the tribe, the leader says you can take whatever weapons you want or whatever, and he negotiates for the kids. And Fern's face when he does that, she's dumbfounded that he actually did come back for them and actually negotiated for them and actually negotiated for their release, essentially.
Yeah.
And then somebody says, "You sure you don't want hides?" He's like, "How many hides?" And they're all like, "Hey!" And he's like, I'm joking," like grinning, like the dad joke kind of thing.
And you're waiting for Fern to hug him because she's the first one up to him, and she's like,
I think she wanted to.
She was, and then Neil just busted on in there with a Kool-Aid Man hug.
Yeah. All of the jokes about Neil's trunk, like get your trunk moving.
Smoke in my trunk. I can't breathe.
I can't breathe. A bunch of little all that stuff with the trunk. No background stuff with Neil. because he was the focus this time. So it wasn't him falling down the hill or trying to do the force with the stick or whatever.
Yeah. He wasn't. He wasn't. Yeah, background
Yeah.
comic relief or whatever.
And then the school was the base for the one tribe, and they had that big, massive gun.
Yeah.
And I found that very interesting. I wonder if that big, massive gun is actually in their school
Yeah.
back home.
Yeah.
I wonder if that comes back around, that the supervisor, there's a ship coming into orbit, and the supervisor says no and fires and that kind of thing.
Maybe.
So those are our thoughts on this the episode 4 of the Skeleton Crew. Let us know what you thought in the comments down below. Please be nice. That is a requirement around here. If you're on the YouTube feed, like this video, subscribe to the channel. If you're on the Spotify feed, follow us there. We will be doing reviews of the Skeleton Crew and Andor, and maybe we'll do one big one for What If.
Yeah.
When that all happens, we're on all the social media stuff: Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok, for at least for right now. I might just change my VPN to like Budapest or something like that. A little bit of housekeeping. Next week's episode is on Christmas Eve. We will be at Batu West when the episode drops. I don't think they're going to show it. We will do our best to watch the episode, but our review will be a couple of days late.
Yeah,
And then my review for the Geekery will be a couple of days late because of that as
Yeah,
well.
but we will attempt to do the Doctor Who holiday special on Christmas
On
after it drops.
Christmas, yeah. We're coming home on Christmas Day, so we'll have sushi, and we'll get that out of the way. So if you're interested in all of our Star Wars, Doctor Who, Marvel conversations, follow us on all that kind of stuff. And until next time, cult members, good afternoon, good evening, and good night now.